Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Jayme CheeseSlice, the engineer and producer of Uncontrolled Opposition. Today, we've got a full house, but I just want to let you guys know if you're watching this show for the first time, what we are doing is actually recording a radio show, but we're just doing this recording live on YouTube and Rumble and all those channels for your benefit. And, but we're going to record for 1 hour, and you're going to get to see all the stuff from the show that's unedited. So you get to see the behind the scenes stuff. So if I have to jump in and make a correction or something, you get to see that, but I'm going to edit all that out for the radio. So anyway, that's what we're doing. We got a full house. We've got the old school Convo Couch crew here today. We got Pasta, Niko, and Fiorella. And we're going to just mostly focus on Zohran Mamdani, also talk a little bit about Panquake. Let's go ahead and bring on our host, though, Gloria and Jeremy. How are you guys doing? Gloria and Jeremy, how are you guys doing?
Good.
So, you guys ready?
Yeah, it's an exciting show. We got all our friends.
It's going to be busy. It's going to be very busy. So, I'm going to be juggling all the muting and everything like that. So, let's go ahead and bring on everybody. We got Fiorella. Oh, Pasta's here, but he's going to stay backstage for a bit. So, here's Fiorella and Niko. How are you guys doing today?
Yay.
I am doing fantastic. I can't complain. How you guys doing?
Good to see you.
Awesome. Fiorella, let's hear a mic check real quick from you. Just make sure we got it.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, you sound good.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and have Gloria start off the show. I'm going to hand it off to her, and we'll get this thing rolling.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Uncontrolled Opposition, where together we battle mind wars with truth strikes. I'm Gloria Guillo, an investigative journalist, and I'm here with my co-host, Professor Jeremy Kuzmarov, managing editor of Covert Action magazine. Our producer and engineer is Jayme CheeseSlice. The opinions you hear are ours and that of our guests, not those of WBAI, the Pacifica Foundation, or the Progressive Radio Network. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only and should not be interpreted as professional or legal advice. Listeners are encouraged to form their own opinions. Today's guests are Niko House, Fiorella Isabel, and Craig Pasta Jardula, three investigative journalists, critical thinkers, and podcasters. Abandon all hope and kill your idols, metaphorically, for your own survival. Why, you might ask? Because hope is an opiate that sedates, and idol worship subordinates our own power and agency to a ruling elite we call the predator class. Together, these delusions keep us from focusing on the fact that there are about 8 billion of us, useless eaters as they like to call us, and only about 20 of them that own and control the means of production. In this context, hope is metaphorically a ring through our nose that the predator class's social engineers use to lead us to wherever they want us to go. Weaponized hope dulls our impulse to resist and choose our own route. False hope encourages us to forego a gourmet meal and settle for breadcrumbs on the chronically unfulfilled promise that the best is yet to come. Even with a democratically controlled House, Senate, and executive branch, we never got a living wage, universal, affordable health care, housing, and higher education. Consider that social engineers use our human tendencies against us. Humans are hardwired to follow leaders because we depend upon our parents for sustenance until we are preteens. Then around age 12, we realize our parents are not gods, but fallible men and women, and we become disillusioned. But just as this happens and we are ready to become the captain of our own ship, we are told we aren't good enough. We aren't as smart, pretty, or strong as the famous people we are taught to admire. Photos of sports icons, fashion models, superheroes, movie, rock, and porn stars adorn our mediascapes and sometimes our bedroom walls too. Most of us are humbled by these false god shrines into some form of worship or emulation. If by luck or sheer determination we achieve some star power along these rigid lines, we quickly learn We quickly learn that we are just another commodity and not autonomous or free as we wrongly envisioned. While there is really only one political party, since all represent the predator class, not us, social engineers keep us obedient through the illusion of choice, as one party may appear to align more with our social values than another. Within this context, politicians become idolized too. But this is even worse, as we not only seek their leadership, but even more dangerously, we seek their rescue. Folks, spoiler alert, there is no hero coming on horseback to save us. This is a predator class fairy tale. The sooner we get over this illusion, the sooner we get some real work done. Social engineers also broadcast manipulated consensus through news and social media. They exploit the bandwagon principle, where hope for belonging overrides scrutiny. Within this context, dissent becomes an outlier. If we don't support whatever flavor of politician they are selling us in whatever party we align with, we are left isolated and self-doubting. The left is so disillusioned presently that it is literally slobbering for Zohran Mamdani, a man that believes first responders should be fired for rejecting mandatory, invasive, experimental healthcare mandates. A man so clueless and bubble wrapped by his handlers that he considers Venezuela's popularly elected president, Nicolas Maduro, a dictator, and a man so ignorant of Ukraine's history as a U.S. proxy that he claims he would lock up Russia's President Vladimir Putin if given the authority. When I saw Mamdani's rise from obscurity, I immediately checked his funding and found both George Soros and Roy Neville Singham's millions behind him through their surrogate organizations and family members. This is not a grassroots uprising. This is AstroTurf with a desperate lot of true believers thrown in for good measure. No matter how many times people are fooled by charlatans like Bernie Sanders, AOC, and No New Wars, Donald Trump, they take the bait and suspend their disbelief. To us, Mamdani seems like Obama round two, and we predict he will be a Democratic Party rising star after being New York City's mayor, because he is socially polarizing figure that gives lip service to humane policies, but ultimately supports the status quo. So much so, Alex Soros, Satan's spawn, posted an immediate selfie on X congratulating Mamdani. Nothing will improve for the impoverished and working class in New York City, just as nothing meaningful improved under Obama. He remains as subservient to Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, and bankers as sitting President Donald Trump. But Drone King Obama's race initially fooled a lot of people, although in reaction to his elite policies, word on the street was that everyone was blacker than Obama. In Mamdani's case, his religion may appear at first glance to be a convincing costume, but his policies are at best empty promises. At worst, they will usher in Soros's next Big Short and kick off a federal state blue-red civil war that leads ultimately to the balkanization of the United States. Soros is credited with funding opposition parties in Eastern Europe that spearheaded directionless changes that resulted in the fleecing of sovereign assets and natural resources by Western corporations and bankers in leadership voids. Check out our articles on Uncontrolled Opposition Substack. We foresee a fixed prize fight between J.D. Vance and Mamdani. They are essentially proxies for Peter Thiel and George Soros, who may have some differing viewpoints, but are united in digital IDs, central bank digital currencies, and ultimately social credit scores. So let's abandon hope and always demand truth and justice, even if it means killing our idols, metaphorically, and becoming our own heroes. At Uncontrolled Opposition, we believe in your power, beauty, and strength, and we know if we all join forces, we can accomplish meaningful change together. Thank you. To start off, let's bring our guests on. What was your tip-off that we were getting scammed by Zohran Mamdani's campaign?
Oh, you want to go first, Fee?
No, I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious from the start, considering that he began surrounding himself with the likes of Elizabeth Warren, with the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Bernie Sanders movement that has been entirely captured and essentially weaponized to sheep herd people back into the Democratic Party. The fact that he came in as this circle of DSA affiliated progressives that we know in New York has long been captured. And to me, people just refuse to look at the money ties because they were so distracted by a few key things he said regarding Palestinians and Palestinian rights. And we know that the establishment loves to use these emotional causes or these causes that really do impact much of the left or the left-leaning voters, and they like to tug on their heartstrings to try to utilize this to their advantage, much like the Democratic Party has done with Latinos, and as Gloria mentioned, has done with the Black community with Barack Obama. And so it was pretty obvious that that was where he was going. You also have to remember he's coming from the Working Families Party. He's coming from this area that's entirely controlled opposition in an effort to rebrand the Democratic Party to a younger, much more hip type of crowd. And we've seen this before, especially all of us here on this broadcast today. Niko, myself, and Pasta, we've lived through the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We have lived through Bernie Sanders. I think the three of us, more than I think most people right now in independent media, can say we're old school in terms of the experience we've had. I mean, at one point we were all supportive of Bernie Sanders and AOC. So we knew, right? Like, we know what this looks like. We've been here before. And yeah, the Soros connection is strong. But I think he actually did even worse than that. He used another mechanism that really was trying to attract not just like the Muslim community, but also the Latino community. The same way AOC worked New York City, the same way they were able to defeat the big guy, he was, right? And the thing about Mamdani is he always spoke out of both sides of his mouth. He would criticize Israel, but at the same time, he will sit and talk about anti-Semitism. In fact, that was the first thing he did after winning mayor. He literally said that he would make sure that anti-Semitism was combated, as if that's the number one problem in New York, let alone in the world right now. So yeah, I mean, those are just a few things to start. I want to hear, what everybody else has to say, but it goes much deeper than that.
So Zohran Mamdani was hilarious from the beginning because, like, when I first heard about Mamdani, actually, it was because he was retweeting and celebrating the endorsements and support he was receiving from people like Elizabeth Warren, AOC, and other establishment Democrats. It was the fact that he was courting endorsements from the establishment to begin with. Because if you look at somebody like Butch Ware, for example, or Kashama Sawant, if either of those Democrats tried to support her, she would immediately reject their support. There's no, oh, well, I'm grateful. No, I don't want you supporting me because it's going to make it look like I support what you support. Unless you're saying, oh, I support her because of this policy, this policy, this policy. And even though I might differentiate myself on this issue, I still support because of these socialist issues. No, that wasn't what happened. It was, Mamdani's looking like he's going to be a good little Democrat for us. He's going to be a good little sheep herder. That's why I support him. And Hakeem Jeffries might have taken a while because I feel like Hakeem Jeffries also has the most to lose, right? He is in line to be the next Nancy Pelosi. Depending on which way AOC or if Mamdani, if he won, decided to lean, he could very well lose his seat because what the hell has Hakeem Jeffries done since becoming the leader of the party, right? So I believe that's the only reason he held out was because he wasn't sure if he would be the sheep herder that he needed Mamdani to be in order for him to solidify his spot as the party's leader. What Mamdani did as far as weaponizing the Palestinian struggle, the plight of these Palestinians to gather up the support, gather up clout, fundraise, and then constantly throw them under the bus is absolutely disgusting. I don't know how people were able to witness this happen in real time, like I did, like Fee did, we talked about this, and a lot of people, Fee honestly didn't take it far enough. Yeah, a lot of people supported Bernie. A lot of people may have supported AOC. A lot of people got famous for supporting them. They made money from supporting them. Pasta, Fee, and I invested our time, invested our energy, traveled with these people, took hits and took heat for the things that we did, not as journalists necessarily, because yeah, we were that, but I mean actually being on the campaign trail. We witnessed a pattern, this pathological pattern of behavior from people like Bernie Sanders, from people like AOC, from people like Tulsi Gabbard. So when we were trying to warn people about Mamdani, it wasn't because we just don't want y'all to have nice things. It's because we understand the most toxic thing that can happen to a blossoming movement is somebody like Mamdani. He is the worst, because he can't run for president supposedly because he's from Uganda, and even though his dad might be a naturalized citizen, he can't run. However, there's a caveat to that. Ted Cruz's dad is the only reason Ted Cruz is able to run for president, and that if he decides to run in 2028, that is going to be disputed because Ted Cruz's dad also wasn't born in the U.S., and neither was Ted Cruz. But the whole naturalized citizen thing, I inherited citizenship, might be the key to Mamdani being able to run. And if he is the future of the party, you can bet your ass that is exactly what they're going to try to do. They're going to make the argument that Ted Cruz is allowed to run, and therefore Mamdani should be. And in which case, he would be the future of the party, and he is seemingly more dangerous in that regard than AOC is.
This Craig Pasta, Jardula, thank you. Sorry for my delay to the show. I had some family things I had to take care of. This is for WBAI, right? Okay, so with that being said, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Mamdani's awesome, right? I mean, we're mitigating damage over here, guys. This is the lesser of two evils. If we get a rent freeze for a little bit, if we get free buses, I mean, that's a small step forward. It is incrementalism, but we are moving in the right direction. I mean, Mamdani's bringing to the table for New York what Bernie Sanders could have brought for the nation, right? I mean, so what if he talks about socialist leaders, real socialist leaders like Nicolas Maduro and Diaz-Canel, and repeat CIA talking points that there are authoritarians that didn't really win their election? Who cares if he says that now is not the time for a grassroots movement to campaign and primary Hakeem Jeffries? You guys got to look. We're not getting big wins here. We're getting small wins, but we are mitigating damage. He's the only one on that stage, for crying out loud, guys, that said he wouldn't go to Israel. I mean, isn't that enough? It makes me feel good. So what's wrong with having a feel-good movement for a guy who's a democratic socialist? I don't know. It don't
make me feel good. Like, okay, so you don't go kiss the wall. Okay, so what you're telling me is you're engaging in Zionist activity for free, right? You're not getting any money from them, allegedly. Like, he's getting money from Zionist Jewish donors, but like he's not being explicitly asked to be a Zionist. Okay, but you're going to bring on a Zionist police commissioner who was the police commissioner when students were getting their heads beat in by the NYPD at Columbia and other universities during the pro-Palestine protests. And she's never apologized for it. There's the same Zionist police commissioner in Tisch who spoke at the ADL and said that she will not tolerate any anti-Semitism, with 0 words of condemnation of how her NYPD engaged with those students, right? So like, people ask me, they say, well, at least he's pro-Palestinian. Yeah. Oh, okay. What does that mean for New York? Because that's what he's the mayor of. He is not running for president. I ask people, what does it mean for New York that he is pro-Palestinian if he's going to keep Tisch? What does it mean for New York if he's pro-Palestinian, if he's talking about putting together an anti-Semitism task force? It's scary. If I was a black person in New York and primarily black people voted for him, which is actually kind of crazy, but also look at the other options, right? Which is also the reason why I think they had Mamdani run, because how could you lose? You're running against a sex pest and Eric Adams of all goddamn people. Like, it's not gonna. There was no way for him to lose as long as he didn't. As long as he didn't do something egregious like molest somebody. Like, that was the bar, and people think this is some massive victory. No, he just had to not be a Cuomo. Whoop-de-freaking-do. But, like, what does it mean that he is quote-unquote anti-Zionist? If he's putting in a Zionist police commissioner, if he's talking about putting together an anti-Semitism task force, if black people were the ones that got him elected, but when we're talking about discrimination, we're talking about disenfranchisement, I haven't heard a single word come out of his mouth about what he plans to do for the black people who got him elected. So what does it mean? Yeah. What does it mean for the Palestinians that live in New York that are experiencing being attacked verbally and physically every single day, being discriminated against every single day just because they're Palestinian? What does that actually mean?
I can tell you what it means. They have somebody who's going to virtue signal for them in New York. I mean, what you're saying, Niko, sounds very misogynistic over here. What did you want, Cuomo to win? And I don't care if he said that despite people not getting hearing and due process, and those people who lost their jobs because they refused to take a shot during COVID, he's standing true to his ground, and he said those people didn't believe in science, and he would not hire them back. But at the very least, we're mitigating damage, and we're getting something here, guys. Did you hear what he said the other day when they asked him, what does it mean to be a real New Yorker? He says the meaning to be a real New Yorker is that you have to know the difference between a hookah lounge and a bodega. That's some really good stuff. That's about bringing culture back to the office.
So basically, that's how you figure out if somebody just moved to Brooklyn about 5 or 6 years ago and is a hipster. Like, I guess that's like a good measuring stick. But what's funny is, like, he talks about making buses free. Last time I checked, Mamdani actually doesn't have the power to do that. That is actually straight from the governor and from the state legislature, specifically because that falls under the metro system, and the metro is actually ran by the state government. People just don't know that. So there are a lot of things that he's promising that he actually can't deliver on without Hochul backing him. And Hochel's not going to allow it to happen because if you're actually a New Yorker, we'll talk about real New Yorkers. Pasta's a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker, and I lived in New York, and I left New York for various reasons. Bro, the majority of the state actually complains because they have to pay for the metro of the metro that city New Yorkers use. Like, that's a whole thing that nobody talk about. But if you live in New York, you know it's a thing. And so, like, it's because the state needs the money. So they're not going to make anything free for New Yorkers. Those prices are going to go up every year. I think the only thing that could probably maybe change is that it goes up a little less every year instead of as much as it's been going up. Yeah. Rent freeze, good luck, because we've seen who's financing his campaign, whether or not it's directly or indirectly. If you've seen the connection between the Soroses and his campaign, the billionaires funding him from outside the state through super PACs. And by the way, when people were like, oh, well, it didn't go directly to his campaign. Okay, did he reject the money? Did he say, I reject this money? I said, I do not want billionaire money because I don't want it to influence me. That's the important part. Did he reject it? No. So he's promising things that he doesn't have any power to control. Like Pasta was talking about, they've admitted that the concoction that you would not put into your body is problematic in various ways. And he's standing by this fascistic idea that because you decide to exercise autonomy over your body, that you shouldn't have your job. And then you're going to weaponize a genocide in the same way we witnessed AOC do when she was saying Kamala is going to fight on behalf of Palestinians and challenge the genocide. When we know, and she knew, Kamala had zero intention on doing so because Kamala said it. So yeah, Mamdani is a problem. I don't know what good. Like, I honestly.
But what about the culture, Niko? Listen, he says he prefers a bagel over a bialy, and he likes sliced jalapenos. He eats with his hands. I mean, this is a new type of breed inside the mayor's ball, right? The mayor's mansion, wherever he lives and stuff like that. Why is it wrong to bring some culture to the table over there? Why does it have to be
because the right way
man running stuff?
So there's one thing we haven't addressed here that I think Pasta will like to address as well, is the fact that Mamdani has been used as an excuse. He's called an Islamic jihadist communist that's going to bring Sharia law into New York. And that narrative was weaponized by the right in an effort to paint him as like somebody that's actually threatening when he's as milquetoast and non-threatening as they come. I mean, the guy is not a threat at all.
He's a milquetoast
to the
Muslim
establishment
at that point
whatsoever.
He's
He's being criticized by actual Muslims who live in these regions that are receiving these bombs, because they're like, what is this? What good is this going to do for the people of Gaza? It's also not going to do good for the people of New York. But it's this narrative that actually makes him extremely dangerous. As we were pointing out earlier, it's much more dangerous for us as people who are really looking at promoting an idea of anti-empire, of promoting this idea of not succumbing to corporate money. The guy has a 501c4 where it's dark money, and we're not going to know that. We're not going to know what money he's getting. Now, the thing is, it's much more dangerous for us all in general when we have to fight both the right narrative that is saying this guy is a Muslim jihadist, even though we welcome Jelani with a red carpet at the White House.
Like with the same week, you gotta like the, oh God.
Yeah, the same week. Or the left that thinks this is the greatest victory ever, and therefore we should all be very happy and proud, and we have achieved greatness and all this stuff that like makes it impossible to not criticize them also by saying this guy is like a neoliberal rebranding. You know, like he's light. He's a Zionist light type of figure, which makes it harder for us when we have to oppose both. And I think that is the intent, because as we were saying, it's much easier to talk about a neoliberal, straight up establishment Democrat.
You know
like
who
Nancy
he reminds?
Pelosi.
You know who he reminds me of? Fee? He reminds me of the 2016 version of Trump. That's like, but on the left, right? Because when Russiagate happened and we had to criticize the process of how that was handled, we were immediately attacked as being Trump supporters. I'm like, no, I just know that this is a CIA scandal and Hillary doesn't want to take her L. And this is an excuse because we all know the color revolution in Ukraine had already happened. We already know that there were plans in motion prior to Trump getting elected for us to engage in Ukraine in some way. And Obama had already ramped up spending in Eastern Europe as a signal that we were planning on getting involved in Ukraine in some way. We've been had beef with Ukraine because of the Biden family and the Biden mafia. And basically Trump somewhat interrupted that. And so what happened was every time we were like, okay, yeah, like South Korea and North Korea getting along is actually a good thing. You must support Trump. That means you're a racist and you're a neo-Nazi. Huh? Hold on, no, I'm confused. No, I'm just saying like them not going to nuclear war with each other is a positive. That's a net positive. No, you're a neo-Nazi. Okay, I'm not sure how we got here, but that's what's happening with Mamdani, right? Whenever I tell people, yeah, like there's not a single, like I don't see any situation why we should be supporting Hakeem Jeffries. If there is anyone who wants to take out Hakeem Jeffries, I consider that to be a positive. Why? Because even if it's somebody else who isn't Hakeem Jeffries, they're more vulnerable to be beaten again than Hakeem Jeffries is.
Now's not the time. Now's not the time. It's not the time now. It's not the time now. And you also got to remember that this guy has talked about exposing predatory landlords out there. He's out there. He's getting a picture of these buildings that are falling apart, and he's exposing these people for who they are. You know, I mean, and he also wants to raise the minimum wage in New York and greater New York to $30 an hour in a couple of years. So, I mean,
in a couple of years,
there are small victories. We got to take the W's when we get them. We hardly get any of them. I mean, you can't see the W here, guys.
If he actually does something positive, I'll say like, yo, that's a great thing. Like, but we understand New York is ran by like a mafia. I don't know if y'all know that, but like it's true. That's how Eric Adams got into power. But y'all remember this entire show Eric Adams put on when Luigi Mangione was arrested, and everybody knows like Luigi is innocent. Why do y'all think that show was put on, and who do you think was behind it? Right? How did Eric Adams even win for that matter? Because Eric Adams was a piss poor mayor in Brooklyn. Like he should have never even had a chance to win. But whenever they pick their guy, that guy wins. People like it's weird because people on the right, for example, they think that like Mamdani might be the worst thing to happen to New York, which I don't actually think is the case. Because I'm like, y'all survived Giuliani. Giuliani was horrible. right? And then, fast forward, y'all survived Eric Adams. Eric Adams was horrible. Do I believe Mamdani will be better than them? No, not really. And that's the problem, because we're being told, leftists are being fed this lie that he will be. And guess who will suffer going forward? Every single leftist that tries to make change, that tries to galvanize the people of New York going forward. Why? Because I'm not falling for Mamdani again. I've already seen how this turns out. That's what's going, because that's what we saw happen with Bernie Sanders. That's what we saw happen with AOC. But the Hassan Pikers of the world will continue to sell this lie and continue. They'll literally tell you this guy's a savior. And then when he screws everything up and they start blaming Democrats and making money off of going at Democrats again, it's going to be the same cycle. They tell you that Mamdani, even, especially with his words recently, where he was asked directly, there are two primary challengers right now that are trying to take out Jeffries. It's Osei, who's a councilman right now, and what is this guy's name? I'm sorry, I cannot remember the man's name. He's newer, and he basically, whenever Mamdani was asked specifically about Osei, because they are actually friends, he actually came out and endorsed his campaign. He said, "No, not right now. Not a good time to challenge Jeffries. If right now is not a good time to challenge, now not the time." When? And give me a reason as to why it is not a good time to take out establishment Democrats, when the whole reason we were told that you ran as a Democrat was to help reform the genocidal Democratic Party from the inside. Please explain that to me.
I just want to add something and bring in Jeremy and Fee a little bit on this. Mamdani has claimed that if he had the authority, he would throw President Vladimir Putin in jail for Ukraine. One of the things that Jeremy and I have talked a lot about, especially Jeremy, is how the movement for against the genocide in Gaza is really like mono-focused. It's not a anti-imperialist struggle where we're looking at what's also going on in Ukraine. It's just totally focused purely on Palestine and Gaza. And we have some theories on that. So Jeremy, would you like to speak about that, and Fee also?
Sure. Well, yeah, this is a good discussion, and many good points have been made. As a historian, I've seen this many times. I think there's this idealization of John F. Kennedy we can go into at another time, going back all the way there. Certainly with Obama, that's one reason. I wrote books on Obama and Clinton, and there's a lot of dishonesty in the liberal media. What upset me as somebody trained in journalism is the low integrity of liberal media like The Nation or others we can't name. That they just heroize these liberal figures, and they're not doing honest investigative, reporting to show the strength and weaknesses and shortcomings. And that's, I think, a reason people are surprised when they end up feeling betrayed over time when they should have seen it coming a long way. And it's in part the fault of these liberal media that heroize these figures and make this is some great event, his election, when it's more politics as usual. And another dishonest thing of the reporting is that there was no reporting. A CIA agent, they were gushing over Mamdani's election. And firstly, the World Socialist website had some good articles about right away his key appointments, deputy mayor. They all came from previous administration. Bloomberg, there were all these insider corporate types. So right away, we have a clear indication that this is business as usual in New York City. He's appointed these corporate types and remnants of past, Bloomberg, and who are corporate conservatives, Wall Street conservatives. So, and then the media, The Nation and these other outlets, I found nowhere, because I have an article coming out in Covert Action on the election of Abigail Spanberger as governor of Virginia, and she's a CIA agent. She worked in the CIA in the Middle East. She had promotes CIA talking points. She was in Congress for 8 years, a Democrat, and she was promoting all the things we hate: the Russiagate, the war on Russia. And and I mean, this is a disturbing phenomenon. You have a CIA. We never had that in U.S. politics. That now the CIA is infiltrating all levers of government, and it's a complete breakdown of the American system of separation of powers. And
can I amend that? Can I amend that? Look, we've never seen them do it overtly. It's
yeah,
always been
overtly,
covert operations.
exactly.
Yeah, it's always been covert.
Yeah. So why weren't liberal with that election? November 4th. They were just promoting these gushing articles about Mamdani as if the revolution has come, and no reporting on Spanberger and these trend in the Democratic Party toward the CIA military-industrial Democrats. The governor of New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill, comes from a background in naval intelligence and is the same cut in the same mold as Spanberger. So as far as the direction of the Democratic Party is not exactly an optimistic one. And as far as the Russia stuff, I had an article. Sanders, I think, had been a disgrace. I had an article comparing him to Roosevelt Wallace, and I, judged Roosevelt Wallace. I think that was when the Democratic, before the McCarthy era, that was a moment of promise for the Democratic Party when Roosevelt signed the Yalta agreements, cooperative agreement with the Soviets. And Henry Wallace, as the vice president, traveled to the Soviet Union and was promoting cooperation with the Soviet Union, and there should be no Cold War, and we should de-escalate the U.S. military empire bases and focus on domestic spending and have peace with the Soviet Union. And he was ousted in a coup, 1944, and the Cold War went forward with the Democratic Party convention. And Sanders has been a gung-ho anti-Russia hawk. And even more so as the years go on, and pro-NATO, and that's what you see with AOC, and as you're saying, Mamdani. So it's and that's as far as like social, those of us on the left who want to see more robust social programs, end to inequality. I mean, that's channeled into the military-industrial complex and this $1 trillion military budget, and that's justified through this threat mongering and anti-Russia phobia. And I think and Sanders and AOC, they're all playing into this, and they're all supporting the Cold War, so they shouldn't be considered progressives. And the other point I wanted to make was I forget. Yeah, with regards to there was one other thing I wanted to make regarding to this issue. But anyway, go ahead. I lost.
Yeah, I just maybe you'll remember. I just want to jump in there on two things that we need to mention is Zohran Mamdani's wife has been pushed into the spotlight as somebody that's a leading example of a feminist, socialist type of woman. In fact, they've been cosplaying as socialists, but he's actually like a nepo baby, and it's kind of perfect for the time because that's exactly like the era that we're in. But his wife is actually a pro-regime change in Syria. And has advocated before for the ousting of Bashar al-Assad, and people just don't talk about that part. And this is pointing to what Gloria said earlier, that the Palestinian movement is extremely tunnel visioned in only talking about Gaza and hasn't made the connections. Not everybody, but I guess the majority of people in the United States or the West that back Palestine haven't really made that connection to empire and to the region and in the Middle East, and how these same Democratic and Republican agendas that are basically part of the Uniparty are at fault for the destruction of the entire region, from Iraq to Afghanistan to Syria, and now the attacks on Lebanon. All of this is connected. And when I talk about Mamdani, I like to connect it to the foreign policy aspect, because he is a mayor of New York. He's not really going to be participating in foreign policy. This is why the left loves it so much, because a lot of the progressive left doesn't care about foreign policy. But as someone that truly believes this, and I know Tulsi Gabbard took it, but I truly believe this, our foreign policy is our domestic policy. And the way to distract us from paying attention to foreign policy.
To be fair to you, we're the ones who taught her that. So just want to be clear.
Yes, that's true.
AOC said it at a rally, though.
Fee's humble.
AOC said it, but she took it from us too.
And she took it from us too. Yeah, all those talking points. I'm gonna keep it a band because I'm tired of everybody taking all of our motherfucking. Oh, excuse me, radio. My bad. I'm tired of everybody taking all the credit from me and Pasta and Fee. Yeah, a lot of those talking points that got these people elected, that made these people famous, we literally gave them. Like and which is why once we were no longer part of these campaigns, once we were no longer writing speeches, prepping their debate talking points, they sound lost. They sound jarbled. They sound ideologically inconsistent because consistency was coming from us. I just want to be very clear about that. That's why Tulsi looks like she's freaking lost all the time now, and she don't know what she believes in. Okay,
and just really quickly, guys, shameless plug, really quickly. I'll give it right back to you, Gloria. Don't worry about it. But now these people are saying, we now know that Epstein had connections with the Mossad. Well, the Truth Wire, which was formerly the Convo Couch, if you go to our YouTube and you hit the most popular videos, it's got about 500,000 views from almost 7 years ago. It's titled Epstein and the Mossad Family Connections. Shameless plug here on WBAI.
Hey, no, shameless plug. Hey, they got demonetized for how far ahead they were on that issue. Like, I was in the house when Pasta and Fee and Johnny were not sleeping, researching on this. I'm not joking, guys. I used to make fun of them all the time because I'm on the couch like, bro, I'm not about to be out here with you. I gotta get some sleeping. You know, you don't stay this pretty by not sleeping. And so I had to get some sleep while Pasta and Fee and Johnny were putting in work on this Epstein stuff, and they were getting demonetized for all of the things people want to admit to being true now. So my point is like this whole idea that like Palestine is like, oh, they get tunnel vision on Palestine. It is 100% true. We can use, once again, Mamdani as the example. Mamdani is from where, everybody? He's from Uganda, which means he is, especially given who his father is, should be perfectly conscious of everything happening in Africa right now. And it is not like this, like before, you could kind of put Africa in the background, unfortunately, because the issues seemingly were not interconnected. But now we know how connected these issues are. We're seeing Nicki Minaj speak at the United Nations over what's happening in Nigeria. She didn't know what she's talking about, but that is how I was about to speak Portuguese. Sorry, guys, but that's how much people are paying attention to what's happening in Africa. What has Mamdani said about Africa? Well, you can't really get any votes from that, so it's better to focus on Palestine. I can't get any votes from talking about what Ukraine has done to the Donbass region. I can't get any votes from talking about color revolutions, some that have taken place in Africa. I can't get any votes from even talking about what happened in Uganda and what's continued to happen in Uganda. So I'm gonna talk about Palestine instead because I'm pandering to Muslims. Yeah, Muslims live in Uganda, but those are Africans. It's different.
Just one point I want to interject there is that Soros and Singham, okay, do not support the Russians. I mean, Soros has done everything possible against them, and they both support the Palestinian protests. They are
also, Gloria, it's just a diversion from the main theater of the Pentagon now is China and Russia in a great power competition. So I think they're happy if the anti-war movement is singularly focused on Palestine, and that's also a very polarizing issue, and they know that. So go ahead.
Yeah, especially because they're losing the propaganda war. Go ahead. Evil? Oh yeah, right. I just feel like Putin is above all else. He's just a pragmatist. Like, I mean, I know people like to put Putin and Xi in these categories of altruists, or no, they're pragmatists who are willing to do whatever it takes to be on top because they also are aware to some degree that the survival of their nations are very dependent on this chess game that they're playing with the West. And I get that, I really do. But like at the end of the day, like Putin is not a war criminal to the degree that Bibi Netanyahu is, right? So you're like, oh, I would arrest Putin, but like you're also going to put him in the same category as a guy committing a genocide? Okay, like, but if Putin arrived, you would arrest him, and you haven't changed that statement, but Bibi Netanyahu is scheduled to arrive on day one of your administration, and you're putting Jessica Tisch back in charge as your police commissioner. Y'all think Jessica Tisch putting on a warrant for Bibi Netanyahu's arrest, guys? So what will his excuse be? Well, my police commissioner said that we can't. So all that pro-Palestine talk, what does it actually mean, New Yorkers? It means that he won. That's what it means. He won, he got your money, and he's making y'all look the other way. And I do want to, I feel like we do have to give some grace to some people because I know a lot of y'all have just started paying attention. Like that is a fact. And so being a person, when I started young, 25, 26 years old, and I had to learn about the things that Bernie Sanders had done in the 90s later on, because I was so tuned into what he was doing at the time. I just didn't. And I was 6 or 7 when he was literally pushing opponents out, trying to help the Democrats back in the day, that I didn't know. I was a kid. So a lot of y'all are just now tuning in, but listen to these journalists, these independent journalists who are righteously angry. Do you think that we are pissed because we just are deciding that we don't like Democrats today or yesterday or last week? No, we're pissed as people who've invested time, energy, and our own personal damn money. We've sacrificed livelihoods. They've had a fee. Pasta, myself, we've had careers. We could have had other careers. I could be a damn real estate attorney making millions of dollars right now, but nope, I'm stupid and decided to help out Bernie Sanders and pursue the DNC fraud lawsuit, knowing I'd be blackballed for the rest of my life from having a job like that. But it's because I believe in this cause, I believe in this mission, and I believe in advocating for those that can advocate on behalf of themselves and educating people who don't know any better. So these people who are righteously angry versus the Hassan Pikers of the world who are interviewing AOC, interviewing Mamdani, getting invited to these parties, these celebrations, these campaign parties. The reason that they're so happy, go lucky, and they're smiling all the time is because they know they're playing y'all. They can fake being mad about Republicans all day because Republicans, they're dumb. They give you reasons. But that's also their job, right? But then whenever Democrats are pretending like they're fighting on your side, their anger is pointed at us for calling the pretenders out. That is sociopathic behavior. Listen to the people who are righteously angry, who are calling out Mamdani, because I promise you, if we are calling ourselves leftists and we're calling out this quote unquote Democratic socialist, there is a reason. And it ain't for our pockets, because that wouldn't make any sense, because it only hurts you to tell the truth. It don't help you.
Okay. Well, Gloria, I don't know where you want to drive the bus here, but the question I have, because I heard like a lot of commentators talking about the problem nowadays with independent media, is that they're very much just like Bernie Sanders. In other words, they'll sit there and they'll tell you what the problem is. We have oligarchs running this country. We have this, we have that. Well, what is the solution? You know what I'm saying? I know the first part of the solution, and kind of curious to hear what Jeremy has to say, being a historian for so long. The first part
for so long. Wow, did you just come at my man's age?
Is to recognize the problem, right? You have to understand what the problem is, but where do we go from there? That's the question. What are the solutions?
Well, if you want my opinion, we can look to American history and look at the formation of independent parties in the Gilded Age, early progressive era, particularly the Populist Party and the Socialist Party, that were very effective in ultimately forcing the Democratic Party to change its platform. And these were grassroots parties that had a strong economic populist platform. And they also set up newspapers to educate the public and to promote, and so I think independent media is very important because, like I was saying, a lot of the so-called liberal media is compromised. They sugarcoat these liberal candidates and they make it a good versus evil struggle. They don't look at the structural factors that have corrupted American politics. As Niko pointed out, they don't cover various regions of the globe, what's happening in Africa, Asia, and how the U.S. empire, is affecting life very negatively there. I mean, Uganda, the U.S. government has poured billions of dollars into the brutal dictatorship of Yoweri Museveni, who engaged in aggression in the Congo, some of the worst human rights abuses, and is, I think, worse than Idi Amin. He's tortured and killed many of his rivals. He's been in power since the early 80s. So that's never covered. So I think what we're doing, not to toot our own horns, but I think genuinely independent media that's objective and provides critical analysis of both parties, and forming grassroots organizations and new political parties. And I'm doing an article, and there's a group in Kentucky that's forming the Kentucky Party. And I think that's a great initiative, an independent party. And they have three aspects of their platform: anti-war, anti-corruption, and pro-Kentucky, and they're willing to accept people with different views on different issues as long as they subscribe to those core principles. So I think that's a good idea. And if that takes off in different states, I think that's a start. So that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah,
I just
mutual
want to
aid.
add something here to Jeremy and a counterpoint, not because I don't think Jeremy doesn't have good ideas, but because I'm past the electoralism in the United States, because I think it's too captured and too far gone for us to really get any legitimate change like we got before. Before, what he mentioned was entirely possible to create parties like a socialist party and a populist party, and to be able to do this through being able to build movements. Right now, in the United States, there are no movements that are not captured. You have fractured people who are trying to do what they can and trying to build communities, but the movements themselves are captured. Everything from the civil rights has been captured. Everything has now become digitalized and focused on AI, and we are being manipulated and controlled and data mined in this way as well. So we need to bring in an understanding of the new material conditions that we face, which are basically the social media and online space, and how it's being utilized to create controlled opposition, to create an idea of people that are bringing about change that actually are not. And I think that the future going forward is going to have to involve the internet. It's going to be a battle. It already is a battle online as to the truth versus everything that's fake, because it's impossible almost to discern between AI and what's not AI nowadays. And so for us, I think the challenge is going to be understanding that we have to look outside the box in terms of electoralism, because that's not going to get us anywhere. And I think the way the United States is right now, for example, we're seeing Donald Trump talk about how he's the peace president. We're seeing how he's talking up how America is great and all of these things. While the economy, I just got back to the United States from Russia. The economy is absolutely tanked. I mean, everything is so expensive here.
Beef prices are the
Everything is-
highest ever.
I'm sorry.
fam.
I'm sorry, Fee.
Beef prices are the highest ever.
Wait, I just want to break in for a second. I think this is a great opportunity for you to talk about Panquake and what's been going on with their legal situation, Fee.
Yeah.
We're
I can
coming
tell-
up to the close of the show, and I really did want you to be able to tell our audience what's been going on.
Yeah, and I can tie all of this together. So in the United States, we're coming up to this moment where things are very dire. I mean, we're coming to a moment where I have friends that are in the industry of banking, investment, and real estate and development, and they're basically telling me that it's going to be worse than 2008. That what we're seeing now is it's going to be the beginning of a very, very dire situation, right?
It's
And so
called
I think that
stagflation, by the way.
we need
It's
to
the word.
what?
It's called stagflation.
Yeah, well, stagflation, but also we're going to see a resurgence of the 2008 collapse. Essentially, that's going to be much worse, and you can see it right now in the housing crisis, where housing prices are dropping and people are being laid off because of AI. And so now this is the thing I want to transition to with the AI thing, because for the longest time, I think, and even longer than Pasta and Niko and I have been doing this, the left has wanted an outlet for something, and not even just the left, but any populist movement, any anti-establishment movement has been wanting an outlet where they can speak without being censored. And we know that Elon Musk's Twitter has been absolutely controlled. The algorithm is insane. People basically pay to promote their tweets now. We don't know the algorithm behind Elon Musk. Basically, if he likes you, he'll promote your stuff. If he doesn't like you, you'll have 200 and something 50,000 followers like I do, and nobody will see your tweets. And like that's essentially what we've come to right now. And for the last few years, there's been a development in Panquake, which started out by a group of like nerdy anti-establishment activists that were working on a voluntary basis, and they've created now this social media platform, because that's what it is. It's a social media platform that mimics in a way what you think of as Twitter, but it will have pretty much the same thing without an algorithmic manipulation, without censorship, and with a decentralized blockchain-based layer 1 platform, which basically means that anybody can look at this code and none of your information is data mined. And I think when Pasta and I talk about elections, we have focused on the blockchain thing because it is something that is impossible to hack. It is something that's going to provide the most transparency, right? And so a lot of people have been saying, where the hell is Panquake, or what the heck is Panquake? What's going on with this? Well, the thing is, people who are working for the Talk Liberation social media, Talk Liberation development house are the ones that have been using now Panquake and are the ones that are pretty much doing these quakes, which would be like the equivalent of tweets, and have been using it every day. Now, this is coming very quick because it's called the Panquake Lite phase. So only the people who work there are using it. The next phase is a beta. And very soon, I can't say the exact date because this is in direct competition against people like Elon Musk, against people like Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, Meta, all of these people. This is going to be and is a diametrically opposed idea where nobody's censored. You can fully see the algorithm. Basically, nobody's going to be favored over another. All of the things that we have been wanting and much more are going to be on this platform. Now, the thing is, they've faced strong opposition from banks being debanked by a bank in Iceland, having the money withheld for 9 months, being unable to really promote this, on top of being smeared by a lot of people on independent media who don't know the time and money it does take to like create an actual thing like this. And now the apps are in development. They're basically almost finished, guys. This is like, I've seen it, I've used it, and it's real, and it's coming out, very, very soon. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think we're entering in an era where AI is king. And recently, you all know, you've seen Amazon go down. You've seen basically Amazon take down the internet with it. And it's been happening multiple times. We've seen basically Cloudflare, Amazon, all of this stuff, right? And like, the problem is everybody's connected to a mainstream, let's call it a mainstream media network, that everybody's connected to AI and everybody's becoming so dependent on AI. Well, there's a reason why the guy from The Big Short, the guy that really, did this whole thing, is shorting AI, because AI has invested billions and billions of dollars and they're never going to be able to make this money back. So what does that tell you? That AI is going to fail. It is on the verge of failure. And right now, what we're seeing is that everybody who's been using AI has failed. But all of the stuff that I'm talking about, whether it's Panquake and everything that they've already developed so far, has not been affected because they're not tied to AI. And so we're going to have people say, well, that's not, the future. The future is AI. Well, AI is just like basically a command. It's basically you're giving a program, telling it to do something, right? Yeah, you're giving it instructions, essentially, prompts to be able to create something. So I think that we have to really focus on really looking at AI as what it is and what it isn't.
We've got to wrap it up, and we're a little bit over. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to thank Niko House, Fiorella Isabel, and Craig Pasta Jardula for joining us on the show, and also give each of you a chance, just real brief, to let our audience know how they can follow your work.
You can follow me. Just go to my Twitter at YoPasta, and it gives you all the links to everything I got. We got this show, Pasta to Go, this channel over here where we do Uncontrolled Opposition live every Thursday. And then it's replayed on WBAI on Fridays, so you can check it out early. I also do my show Drive Time Wednesdays at 4 p.m. on WBAI. If you want to call in, give your opinions. It's a call-in show. It's great. Please do so. And Fiorella and I, despite all our traveling, are trying to pick it back up. The Truth Wire, which was formerly the Convo Couch, usually goes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays-ish, 12:30-ish, and come check us out. And, of course, I do the Homeless Left. I'll be doing with Matt Weinglass today as well. Niko.
You can find me on Twitter at Real Niko House. That's Niko with a K, not a C, by the way. On Instagram at Real Niko House. Of course, YouTube as well. You can check out my podcast, For the People Podcast. And also make sure you follow us on Hotspot Media on X at Hotspot. And we just got our Instagram back after a long battle with Meta in the courts that let us finally make our Instagram again after them taking it away with 200,000 followers. So make sure you check us out on Hotspot. We do breaking news every single day. Me, David Hundayan, the foremost expert in African politics, and Nick Cruz, Socialist MMA on Twitter. If y'all follow him, part of it too. So yeah, you can follow us there.
And I have my Substack. I would encourage you all to go follow that. I'm creating articles, doing articles, but also doing another show called Critical Perspectives with Vanessa Beeley, who many of you know. And then that's also on our YouTube, Critical Perspectives, and follow us there. We'll be doing something very much on the China-Russia UN Security Council votes. And so look out for that one. That one's going to be interesting.
The opinions you hear are ours and that of our guests, not those of WBAI, the Pacifica Foundation, or the Progressive Radio Network. That wraps up our show for today. This is Uncontrolled Opposition. I'm Gloria Guillo, joined here by Professor Jeremy Kuzmarov. Remember to like and share our broadcast. Your kind support keeps us going. Please find us on Substack, Twitter X, and Podbeam. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you next week. Thank you. Now, we're still live, folks, and nobody take your clothes off.
Thanks, guys. I've got to run. I've got an appointment.
Jeremy, you got to leave. We love you, buddy.
Yeah. Great show. Great being on with all of you.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Just rock and roll. That was like old school Convo Couch days. It was great.
It was really fun. I just want to put out for the audience. I mean, Niko doesn't know me as well, but I spent my career in New York City government as an urban planner. And
Really?
I'm a policy analyst. I worked under Koch. I ran away when Giuliani came in, but then I came back. I worked under Bloomberg, and I left before, I forgot his name, de Blasio. So I have quite a bit of experience in New York City government. And when I got out of grad school, it was at the time where New York City was kind of pulling itself out of being the biggest slumlord in the world. Because what happens if the economy goes down is that the landlords, and in this particular case, they torched their buildings. And
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
The Bronx was burning, literally. And I had good friends that were on the arson task force back then. And so
that happened a lot on the Koch, right? On the Koch?
Before Koch, this is under like Beam and Lindsay, all this stuff was happening. And then basically New York City almost went into receivership, and then it didn't. But basically this is where you had all the street gangs, and you had all the Bronx burning and all of this stuff. And, one of the things that happened and why this happened is because you had a tremendous amount of influx from the South, and you had a tremendous influx from Puerto Rico. And not that, people were the issue. The issue is this huge influx of people and no jobs. People were coming into New York City because it had the highest welfare payments. So you had this tremendous influx of people, and you didn't have infrastructure. You didn't have housing. You didn't even have schools. So you had overcrowding. You had no jobs. And if you have these kind of situations where you have a population that has no income and are dependent on handouts, you have a tremendous amount of people who are also amenable to using drugs and alcohol, because there's really no other alternative. So people became involved in drugs and selling and buying and all of this stuff. So what happens is then you have this incredible danger, and you have crime go through the roof. And when I finished graduate school, I went to NYU, and most of the buildings, I just want to tell everyone, are named Tisch. And the reason for that is because Tisch is a billionaire family. This is this police commissioner. It is not just a random, Israeli lover in this sense, let's say a Netanyahu lover, to be really specific. but this is a very wealthy, real estate billionaire family. That's who Tish is.
She was
Okay, she's an
handpicked.
heiress.
She was handpicked.
Yeah.
She's an heiress. Okay. So, I mean, I've seen this stuff before. And when you have terrible crime, what happens is you have people of middle income means leaving the city in droves. And what remains is an extraordinary wealthy class, very, very small, on Park Avenue and penthouses. And then you have a tremendously poor population and very bad services. So, when I got out of graduate school, I was kind of fortunate because it was kind of this .com turn where money started coming back into the city, and there was a huge budget for renovating these burnt out, water damaged buildings, which were taken through in-rem vesting is what it's called. And that's basically where, people, real estate abandon their buildings and they don't pay their taxes. And then the city takes them through, receivership because they're delinquent on their taxes. So basically that's what happens. So we've seen that. We've seen the 60s. We've seen the 70s. We know what it is to, make these promises that bring in populations and don't have infrastructure or services to accommodate people. You get chaos. And when you get chaos, you have flight. And basically, if you're trying to the word color revolution or balkanize the United States, what you do is you start with the cities, and we've seen this. So you put in people in these cities that are going to do this, and if you look at the cities, that's who the Democrats are putting in. These guys that are promising stuff are trying to create this, and then you're going to have this blowback where you have the Republicans, in the federal government saying, which is what they said to New York City. They said, drop dead. I forgot which president, Gerald Ford said to New York City, drop dead. We're not going to give you any money. So what that sets up is this balkanization, this fight, the civil war between the states and the cities, and the federal government and the states and the cities. So what we see looking historically, and then projecting ahead or extrapolating is that this is happening. This is going to happen. This is the next few years. And all we
do you think that Mamdani has that the city actually has the budget to do anything that
no. It's going to just attract people. It's not going to provide for them. There's a big difference between
that's what I thought.
saying, come to us, we're going to give you this, and then they get there and they don't get it, which people found out. I mean, it was a sanctuary city until it wasn't, and that door shuts very abruptly, and then people are stranded. And then you have all of this, increase in crime and illness, and then there's no place for the kids to go to school. So it's just this poison, and so basically, what Fee is saying, and what I'm saying also, I think is that things are going to get worse, and what we can do, and what we all do here, all of us, is we teach. And we show, and we try to get people not to, say what we're saying, but to see what we're saying and compare it to the other stuff they're getting. And then to use their own judgment to make their own decisions and to question narratives. So if all of us can do nothing other than get people to question prevailing narratives, we have succeded, in my humble opinion. So
thank you.
Keep it up, guys.
Thank you. Gloria, how did Mario Cuomo play into all this stuff? You were around with Mario Cuomo, right? Because I remember, I have very little knowledge of him, but I do remember him kind of enlightening me when I heard him speak. Like, he just seemed like he's very different than his sons, right? And by the way, Andrew should be called Fredo, because Fredo was the oldest son, right? Like, then people forget, I'm the older brother, Mike.
Hey, not letting that Fredo go, whatever.
And I got looked over.
Well, I heard stuff, and I think I read some stuff too, that the Republicans were actually supporting Cuomo. They weren't supporting Sliwa, because Sliwa is an unknown. He doesn't play ball. So
I was
you know,
asking about Mario.
No,
the
I know,
father.
but I just want to say,
Yeah.
one reason Cuomo was in there is because he's so unelectable. I mean, a dog could win against Cuomo, and the
Literally.
Republicans were actually bankrolling Cuomo because they didn't
Mhm.
want anybody that could actually win. So, you know, I think everybody wants Madami in there because they want to have this crisis. You know, this is something that everyone should understand. Okay. The stock market goes up in steps, but it crashes like an elevator. And if you are shorting the economy, that's where you make your money. And if you study Soros and you really study Soros, that's how he's made his money. He's called the person who breaks the Bank of England. I mean, it's this wrong betting. It's this short betting. So nothing could be better than to destroy the United States. People have to understand that.
Well, I think people are missing to the hold on really quickly, the psychological part, right? The Tavistock part about, you know, color revolutions. When you talk about Operation Phoenix, right? That's when Tavistock was put into play, which is the company that the MI6, the CIA outsourced all their work. They did a lot of the work on MK Ultra. But then, you know, the intelligence apparatus came to them and said, well, we understand how to control an individual. How do we control a society? And I think they picked up 150,000 North Vietnamese and just dropped them in South Vietnamese. And it was part of this Operation Phoenix to understand how you move and mess up a society. With Mamdani coming into play, it is the most divisive thing I've seen since, in addition to Charlie Kirk, because like I said, when people say, oh, it's just Israel alone with Charlie Kirk, I'm like, no, it's not.
No,
they have to be working with the West because this is very divisive. Mamdani brings that sense of divisiveness into play right now. And literally you get this kind of red team, blue team mentality since he's been there. Just on crosstalk with Lionel, and he's trying to talk about Mamdani. Like, that's the big problem.
If you heard my intro, I go into it's important to I forgot what I said. Oh God, let me remember what I said. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys.
Well, we were talking about like the Tavistock, it's not just the finances, right? Because I don't think people understand that. I don't understand that it's a grab for everything, resources, money, divisiveness.
What I wanted to say is the predator class, and everyone jump in on this. The predator class may have some difference of opinions, but when it comes to digital currency, digital IDs, and social credit scores, it doesn't matter if you're Peter Thiel or if you are George Soros. You want the same thing, and the more chaos they create, the more they can roll out these things. And when I'm studying these digital currencies in other countries, they roll it out on people who are on the dole or getting social services first. So first it's the people on SNAP, let's say. Then it's the people on maybe people on Social Security, people on unemployment. You have to have this digital ID, and then you're getting this money. So they keep rolling it out, but they're all in agreement on that.
Yeah, and also I want to say with Mamdani, for example, there's a reason like the Republicans. Really, I would damn near say the Republicans promoted Mamdani more than the Democrats did. And which is crazy to think, but then you got to remember Republicans are the most successful and they dominate elections, just like at a municipal and just like a federal self-serving level. Whenever a Democrat overpromises and underdelivers. And Mamdani is, like I said, I call him Obamdani because like he is Obama 1.5. Like he's just a less charismatic version of Obama. And who is promising more to New Yorkers. And right now, it doesn't look like a Republican. Right now, it didn't look like a Republican would win New York for the foreseeable future. But after Mamdani shits the bed, which is inevitable because what he is promising, like I said, a lot of it isn't even in his power. Hochul is seemingly openly planning on combating every initiative he wants to bring forward that might actually help. Like once he fails, what's going to happen? Republicans are going to take over. And yeah, they're going to screw people over too. But they're going to make a lot of money for their friends along the way. And Democrats won't have the credibility to come in and say, we'll be different because you had your opportunity and you weren't. And that's what, obviously that's not just a New York thing. That's around the country. That is around the country. And for Mamdani, well, I just find it extremely weird how he leans so much into this idea of him being Muslim, but like he is from Uganda. That's where he was born. Like he is a Ugandan citizen. His dad is so integral to that society. Like he talks about like Muslims don't traditionally eat with their hands. Africans do from that region. That's why he eats with his hands. It had nothing to do with him being Muslim. I don't know why conservatives were focusing so much on that. But like he didn't talk about Africa at all. Yeah. Despite the fact that there are a lot of African immigrants, they're like that aren't just Muslim, they're African Muslims, African Christians, and everything in between. There are a lot of Ugandan immigrants specifically. There are a lot of Desi Ugandans that have a similar experience to Mamdani, but it's like he purposely stayed away from that conversation because there are a lot of the billionaires who are bankrolling him that are involved in all of the robbing that in extraction of resources that's happening in Africa right now. Like he didn't even want to broach the subject. And I know he knows what's going on.
The campaign manager, Niko, was like, oh, just go with it. Don't say anything. Just roll with it. Let the people go. And he's just like picking up food with his hands and just that's how weak-minded these fucking progressives are, that they think that is more important than the economics that are not going to come into play. And by the way, Niko, I think comparing him to Obama is the key. From what Fiorella pointed out in the very beginning, the donors, the dark money, it's almost identical to when we thought Obama was going to be about hope and change. And when he came in, Citibank picked this whole freaking financial cabinet. We should have known right there. Just like the Trumpers should have known when he had Larry Ellison and Sam Altman up there.
He had JP Morgan guy.
They're telling you.
He had the JP Morgan guy. He was at a fundraiser with the JP Morgan guy early on.
Mamdani was like, I'm going to have Zionists in my administration. And everybody was like, oh, that's cool. like, hold up, what?
He's I thought Netanyahu.
Yeah, like he's going to arrest Netanyahu, but also he's going to have Zionists in his administration. Also, he's going to have a billionaire heir Zionist as his commissioner, his police commissioner. Like that for me is like one of the hugest red flags. Because like, okay, it's already bad enough she's a billionaire heiress, but she's a billionaire heiress and she's a Zionist, and she was literally the commissioner when students were getting the shit beat out of them at these college campuses. And basically, from her speeches at the ADL, it's like, and I do it again, basically. Okay, so what does him being pro-Palestinian have to do with literally anything at this point? And also, it's just kind of weird with the whole hand-being thing, because whenever people were trying to point to the fact that he was eating with his hands, like that has something to do with Islam, like he never once came out and said that is actually has nothing to do with being Muslim. It actually is my African heritage. It's my Ugandan heritage and Desi heritage. I'm just going to let the right keep playing into this non-existent trope and let them believe it. It was weird. It's always been weird. And I'm like, yeah, this is Obama. This is exactly like Obama. But once again, I call it 1.5. I can't call him 2.0 because he's not as charismatic and he's going to fail twice as fast.
I think that's, and also, I would like to say, I think they might be setting him up because we all know this economic crash is coming. I think they're going to probably blame it on AI. So we had like the .com bust in the 90s. This will be the AI crash. They're already setting it up. We had AOC saying we shouldn't bail out the AI companies. I kind of agree with that, but I also think if AI industry crashes and we bail it out, then the United States people should own the AI industry. It should become nationalized at that point. It shouldn't be like we bail them out and these private industries get to keep the AI for their private selves. But anyway, I think there is going to be a big crash. We're looking at the economy. It's in a disaster point right now that looks as bad as the Great Depression or maybe worse.
No, it's definitely worse.
We got all the problems from 2008 and then some. So it's like going to be like 2008, the .com crash, and probably the 87 crash all rolled into one.
Gloria says they're going to cut off the food supply. Well, then we go fucking crazy.
Well yeah, they can do that to get everybody on the digital IDs and the digital currencies. But also, I think they're setting up Mamdani. Okay, so you set him up, you call him a socialist and a communist, and he's not a communist. And He's barely a socialist.
He's not a socialist either. He's
But
an
you
opportunist.
put him in
He's an
charge, and then the crash
opportunist.
comes and say, "See, socialism doesn't work. We just had the biggest crash ever. We have the socialist mayor of New York, and that caused all the problems in the entire country."
Yeah, right. I can actually see that happening. Yeah, look at what happened in New York. That's why the entire economy that's been failing for a decade that everybody predicted was going to happen failed, right? Because of the random socialists that got elected 2 years ago. But I would say too that when I was talking about the stagflation, that's like the technical term for what we're about. Like, that is actually worse than a recession.
I have lived stagflation.
Yeah, so
stagflation was the 70s. I was
exactly. Everybody, people don't realize how bad it was because the United States was affected by it, but everybody around the world. Because what happens is everything becomes more expensive, but nobody's working. And because nobody's working, nobody can pay for anything. So prices actually then begin to drop, but then the businesses can't stay open because, well, you can't, like, everything is more, like, to maintain your business, it's still expensive, but like you have to lower your price for people to buy stuff, but people still can't buy anything because they're not working. And if you can't afford to employ people, how are you going to keep your business up? It's like this vicious cycle. I think it happened twice in history, and it lasted for like almost a decade. It was not some small thing. It's a big deal, and it's going to be worse.
And speaking of people not working, you've got AI coming, which is going to put a lot of people out of work. And so I know Fee said like AI is going to fail. Well, I mean, it's going to fail, I think, as a financial endeavor, but it's not going to fail as a technology, as a tool that people are going to use. But I think all this investment into it right now is really ill-advised. A lot of people don't understand it and what it's actually designed to do. And also, it's not ready for prime time yet. Like, it's doing a lot of impressive things right now in some areas, but it's still not there yet. I think we're like at least a year away, maybe 2 or 3 years away.
Really? I'm thinking like we're a decade away.
Well, it depends on what you want it to do. I mean, if you look at where it's doing stuff like video, like doing deep fakes and stuff like that, I think we're about a year away. Because look at where it was like 2 years ago. Look where it is now. It's insane.
But so that's not like job. Like, I don't think that's taking people's jobs away though. Like that's
it's taking out all the jobs in the creative field. Like, it's killing Hollywood.
For now, but I don't think that it's going to. I don't think it's going to be like a long. I think that's what female. Like, it's going to fail in the long term because like the deep fakes, there's already they're creating AI and technology to discover the deep fakes, right? The videos, even to some degree, are like, you're starting. People like, I don't know. It's like human nature is kicking in. People are able to tell off rip, like, okay, something's off here.
It's on the cusp. Like, it's not there yet. But it's close, and it's just getting better, and it's getting better faster.
I'll tell you where AI is not going to fail: surveillance. Because
you're right about that.
Everybody's on the same page with surveillance.
Yeah, you're right about that.
That's what I'm going to say. In those areas, like surveillance, any job where you use a computer to do the job is going to be affected by AI. So a job where you might have needed like 30, 40 people in an office to do that job, you're going to now need like 1 or 2 people to do that job because AI is going to do everything else.
I'm still like on the cusp.
Will be there to push the buttons and maybe fix something if something goes wrong, but you just put 50 people out of work. Now, take that and push that to the entire economy, the entire country. You're talking millions of people out of work. There's not going to be jobs for them. Not everybody can become a plumber or an electrician. And even if they could, we don't need that many plumbers and electricians. I mean, so yeah.
Well, ain't nobody buying houses. So ain't nobody buying houses. So we really don't need that many plumbers.
Right. Yeah. But all these things are coming together at the same time. You've got the housing market. You've got people can't pay their car loans. You've got AI coming, kicking people out of jobs. And that's a real big problem for a system that requires people to work to be able to participate in society. And we're not having a discussion about what full-time work should be. Like,
that's true too.
If there's not enough work for everybody to do work, then maybe full-time work shouldn't be 40 hours anymore. Maybe full-time work should be like 20 hours. But you should
their suggestion is UBI, which plugs everybody into the digital currencies. That's their suggestion. We don't have enough work. We got to have a UBI, plug you into the digital currencies. That's how they get you.
And,
I
and
still
they're
feel
doing
like
that in Brazil.
Yeah.
I wrote about that. What are you seeing that?
with
Or is it mostly people who are on programs?
So like yeah, no, it's most people on programs. Like if they receive some type of a benefit from the government, they receive it to their accounts directly in the same way like people, but they don't do like SNAP benefits where you get like an EBT card or something like that. Like it goes directly to your account. So it is not like a digital currency; it's their actual currency so far.
Right, but you can
Lula,
shut people off if they're a problem.
oh
If
no,
they,
yeah,
they don't comply with getting a shot, or if they
yes,
don't comply
Lula
with
is
something.
Lula is
the
trying to make
switch
it so
goes
that
off.
you don't if you don't get your kids to get a vaccine, then like he wanted to cut people off from their benefits. However,
Thank
for whatever
you.
reason, the process has been so complicated that he actually hasn't been able to implement it. I don't know, like that's
But the
a
scary
constant
part
thing
is
here.
he's thinking about it, and this is
Oh,
the
he tried.
frontier, and this is
Yeah.
the frontier.
That's his weakness.
Yeah.
That's his weakness.
Oh,
is
he
a
got more than
vaccine
one. He got more than one
salesman.
weakness, but that's the start. Yeah,
That
that's
is
one of
his
the
weakness.
weaknesses.
Yeah, but it's also a testing. I mean, if you can pull it off in Brazil, then you can roll it out in the United States. You know,
For sure. I mean, it's kind of already a thing to some degree, isn't it, in the U.S.? Like, you got to get certain vaccines to be at public school, right? Like, and eventually they're going to make it so that you have to get COVID vaccine. They tried to make me. So let me tell y'all a story real quick. So for people that aren't from Brazil, you probably didn't know, but like vaccines were not a huge deal here. There were a couple of the major ones like polio and like hepatitis and things like that. But they were made here and they were not from the United States, and it wasn't a requirement for you to live your life. Lula comes in, and all of a sudden you're seeing vaccine commercials in the movie theaters. And I asked my wife, like, yo, is this normal? And she was like, no, this is actually new. I've never seen this before. I said, hold on, let me do some research real quick, because I feel like I've seen these companies before. And these vaccines are coming from the US. So the reason that Brazil was so confident in vaccines before is because like they have very strict regulatory measures to make sure that you don't have the problems that we have in the US. And that kind of all went out the window once Lula came in. And so he started bringing in US vaccines and US vaccine companies. And specifically, they got caught up because they brought in the polio vaccine that you take not through the needle, but the liquid that you take by the mouth. Right. And they wanted for me to give my son that vaccine when he was born. And I said, oh, y'all can kiss my ass. I'm not giving him that vaccine. And they're like, well, no, you have to. I said, okay, well, once you get the needle, well, I mean, because he's in the house all day anyway, and he doesn't have polio. But once you get the needle again, we'll have a conversation. But I'm not giving him that. He's like, why not? Because y'all just invented it. And it's not from here. It's from the US. Guess what they had to get rid of like 6 months later? That specific vaccine.
Yeah.
They had to start giving it through the needle again because it was giving people polio. My wife was like, holy shit. I would have let them give it to him because like I'm thinking my doctor knows what they're talking about. I said, no, they're paid to give you. That's why they put so much pressure on you to give these vaccines out, give these vaccines to your kid, because they're paid to to have these kids take them. Yeah. And she was like, what the hell? Oh my God. She's like permanently freaked out now because of that whole situation. Because literally 2 or 3 months after I was like, kiss my ass, we're not giving him that, they had to remove him from the market.
Yeah. When we were in Brazil overseeing the election, we had met you there. And every place that we went that was pro Lula, they were showing us their like Band-Aids on their arms, showing that they had gotten a vaccine, the COVID vaccine. It was, a sense of pride. And they had been so propagandized that Lula cared about them because he was bringing these vaccines, that this was somehow a paternalistic and protective measure. And it's amazing how you can convince people of anything just by repetition and
that was definitely a São Paulo thing.
To be fair, in 2009, H1N1 with Lula, that was his first term. There was an outbreak, and that's where he got really into the whole vaccine thing, was with H1N1, right? In 2009, I believe. That's
But he
when
probably wasn't
kind of
getting those
became a
vaccines from the
vaccine believer,
States.
and then he's been about, and he's got like that same kind of mentality about, well, they're keeping it from us because they're the rich, we're the poor, we need to get this because they always don't care about us. And he fell for that trick. But it was H1N1 in 2009, 2010 that really got Lula on the whole vaccine train.
Yeah, but I think it's in the most recent instance, I think that, I mean, after they put him in jail and was like, yeah, we can throw your ass in jail and don't have to charge with a damn thing. I think that he was scared straight, and that is why they had him run against Bolsonaro, because as problematic as Bolsonaro was, Bolsonaro, he was anti-vaccine, but more importantly, he did things that which is weird, like he did things that actually helped out some impoverished people that he just didn't like to talk about, like making transactions much easier in undercutting these middlemen, these middle companies that would normally profit. So like Pix, for example, I'm sure everybody, if you've been to Brazil, you see Pix everywhere. Like I can pay Uber with Pix, which means Visa doesn't get the fee from me paying my Uber now.
Yeah.
I get these people selling Mentos on the beach have these machines, and you can just send Pix directly. You don't have to run it as credit. You don't have to run it as debit. I can send it straight from my bank account to your bank account via that credit card machine.
Yeah.
And it's like, now, I mean, okay. People are thinking that's like what? That's 50 cents. That's 25 cents. Or, like, no, that is millions and millions of dollars a day.
Yeah. No, listen, Nayib Bukele with the whole, we don't know exactly how many people are using it, but the whole Bitcoin thing with the Chivo or the Chino banking, whatever, it cut out Western Union fees, which were ridiculous. So now it was like you're sending money that costs you like $2 instead of costing you $100. The remittance, that's good. But and also Bolsonaro tried to get ivermectin out there. Like me and Gloria went into like a pharmacy where they were like, "Oh, that's over." What do you mean that's over? Like the distributing it out from the government? Oh, we don't have any more, whatnot. And you go right down the street. There's plenty of ivermectin, but you can tell it was like a pharmacy that was probably pro Lula of sorts or that. You know, but I think Bolsonaro, he sealed his fate with his reluctancy to work with the Chinese while he was the president, right? You know, the Bannons and the Trumps, they got to him and said, don't work with the BRICS nations at all. And, his own government was kind of like, hey, man, you got to work with the Chinese here. And he refused to work with them.
Which was dumb. It was just because they got, I mean, since the whole farming industry situation happened where Trump screwed them, screwed the U.S. in 2018, when he decided to engage in a trade war, like Brazil was where China turned, and they made like $60 billion in like 2 years. Like it was dumb for Trump to do that. And Bolsonaro, if he would have taken advantage of the situation, instead of kissing Trump's ass, he probably would have won, because São Paulo specifically benefited heavily from that partnership with China. They had to build a new port. They got so much stuff coming in and going out from China that they had to build another port in São Paulo specifically to deal with it. Yeah. So like,
and you saw the homelessness in Sao Paulo, right? It was terrible. It was awful. Oh, yeah. I mean, I know you can't blame everything on COVID on Bolsonaro, but he fucked up financially when it came to, dealing with these other countries.
Oh no, so Sao Paulo actually they screwed themselves over, because Bolsonaro, surprisingly enough, actually gave money to everybody during, like, nobody had to fight to get a bag during COVID. Even if you were working, everybody, unless you were at earning a certain amount of money, everybody got money. I was kind of surprised by that. I'm like, hold up, y'all got? Because I asked my wife, I said, y'all all got money? It's like, yeah, like everybody did. No, when you say everybody, so she's like, yeah, like you had to be basically rich to not get money. I said, under Bolsonaro? She was like, yeah. I said, hold on, because I remember when I was living in the States, we literally almost had to go to war with our Congress to get the little bit of $4,000 maybe in total that we got. So you're telling me that they just gave y'all money even if you were still working? She's like, yeah. In some places, they didn't even cover rent.
Yeah. But I mean, I talked to people from Sao Paulo, that Camilla hooked me up with, and read some articles and stuff. And they say even the bourgeoisie that normally sticks together, walks in lockstep, half of them walked away from Bolsonaro because they would just say, and they would talk to people that used to be middle class, and they're like, yo, I have no eggs in my refrigerator. I have no milk. I have no
That's a
chicken.
big thing.
It's just that
Yeah.
the economy is not doing what it used to. And a lot of people in the bourgeoisie were like, well, let's go back to the guy who really lifted this country, up to the next level, and Lula, who had so many economic gains. Let's give him another shot and bring him back in, because Bolsonaro is just not getting it done. So
Bolsonaro ignored the interior, like the inner like the rural areas of Brazil, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, and right now, Lula's doing unfortunately, he's doing the same thing to a large degree. Which, like, I don't know if y'all have heard, like, seen all the memes about how expensive coffee got here, but at one point it was like 50 to 60 reais a bag. People were going crazy because you.
How much is that in America?
Brazil runs on coffee. For those of
It's
you who
like-
haven't been to Brazil,
Yeah, like
coffee and
is-
sugar. That's it. You
coffee and
don't
sugar.
screw with those two things.
Exactly. And like, so in America, it's like what, $12 or something like that, a bag. But like for Brazilians, that's like 4 bags of rice. Like, it's not, it's like you got to make a life decision that day on whether or not you want to drink coffee. Bro, people were going mad here. I'm talking about like damn near protests in the streets. Everybody in the morning in Brazil, like, it's a very polite country. So everybody do like bon dia, good morning, everybody all the time. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, that bon dia shit stopped for about a good 2 weeks. Then people were pissed. They were not happy about these coffee prices, bro. I promise you. Like, when we go get coffee, like, I'm like, hold up. I mean, I'm American, so like, I'm not paying what they're paying, but even still, I'm like, hey, babe, go ahead and get that cheap brand over there. Cause we was getting pilon. Like, no, we're gonna have to get the store brand today, because I'm not paying 55 reais for a bag of coffee, because it was ridiculous. It finally came down a little bit, so it's like 35 reais for a bag of coffee. But something's going on here in Brazil where I don't know what this administration is doing, but it is so there's a stat that came out the other day that said inflation is at a record low, but like they didn't actually admit, for one, that was from like a year or something like that ago. Like, that's what they were counting. And like, cause I had just went to the grocery store. I'm like, yo, did y'all actually inform the grocery store? Cause I just went shopping and I paid more. Now, like, it doesn't even matter if the value of the dollar, for example, compared to the real goes up. Like, because I'm still paying the same amount because of how expensive everything is getting. It's like, I'm like, yo, the same thing that's happening in the US is happening here. And because Brazil is kind of like just now waking up politically to some degree. They're just now taking interest in it because they're starting to see there's an economic and social value in it, in the same way that people saw in 2016 there is. So like, they're not actually realizing, for example, that Lula in this administration, at least, is acting very much so like Obama, for example. And so you have this tribalism where when something bad is happening, no one wants to admit that it's happening. Like, for example, Alexander Moraes, being a judge in his own case against Bolsonaro. Like, literally, he was accusing him of something, and he's one of the judges that decided that Bolsonaro was going to be guilty. And as corrupt as the U.S. is, you would never see some shit like that. That is completely and totally unethical. But he literally was part of the decision-making to decide whether or not somebody was guilty in the case that he was an accuser in. That is insane. Y'all know Moraes, he's a problem. He is, the
Alexander?
dude was... Yeah, Alexander, yeah, him. The one who was the former...
I know who he is.
Security minister. Minister of São Paulo.
Yeah.
Like, people think that he's some liberal social... No. And I'll be seeing people on the stage cheer him on. I'm like, y'all do know he's a cop, basically.
I hear that guy's name too often because of my Japanese friend who's from Brazil, from Sao Paulo, and she's a Bolsonarista. Forget about it. I hear about Alexander Moraes all the time. It's like, send me videos all the time. I'm like, I don't want to hear about it.
Can't avoid it.
Gloria, you ready to wrap this sucker up?
Yeah, let's call it a day. All right.
Why don't you
Jayme.
play us on out? Put her on the big screen.
Jayme.
Well, I usually close the show for
So then you close it out.
Close
Jayme.
it, because I got to go to another show.
Here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
because everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
drops out.
Thanks, Jayme.
All right, so everybody, thank you for watching this episode of the Convo Couch. We've had a good time today, and we will be back next week for Uncontrolled Opposition, with another great episode. It will be Thanksgiving, but we're going to still do a show. So we'll be back next week. Thank you for watching this week. And maybe we'll throw this on Truthwire because this is like old school.
Let's do it. Love
Yeah,
you guys.
this-
Peace out.
Really good conversation. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
To